Why is there such a negative stigma on mental illness? People in our society put such harsh labels on those already suffering enough. Are we as a society afraid of those suffering disorders because they are crazy, drug addicts, or even murderers? 27% of Americans suffer from a mental health issue yearly. That is almost 1/3 of our country. And yet when someone says they are dealing with a mental disorder, we as Americans want to turn our back rather than offering a helping hand. In 2006, 33,000 people committed suicide, and 90% of those had a diagnosable mental illness. If soldiers fighting for Americans' freedom cannot even be open about their illnesses because of their fear of being treated differently, then who would feel comfortable talking about their problems? The stigma that people put on others with a mental disorder is something that is incredibly hurtful and can stay with that person forever. Stigma includes both prejudicial attitudes and discriminating behavior towards the affected person. A patient who is diagnosed self-stigmatizes constantly, thinking they aren't good enough or aren't normal, and can even go as far as them not wanting to continue on with their lives. They don't need others adding to the stress they deal with daily on their own. Is the ignorance of people towards mental health illnesses due to our society's lack of knowledge about these illnesses? I know my lack of knowledge caused many misunderstandings and confusion as I was growing up. I grew up spending a lot of time with my stepsister. As much as I wanted to, we didn't really get along at all. She was extremely moody and mean, and I just couldn't understand why. I tried everything to make friends with her. One day things were fun and I had a great time, and the next day was hell. I just did not get it. It was not until I was a little older that I found out about the mental illnesses she had been dealing with. At the time, I was not convinced that her diagnoses were correct, as I thought it was lack of good parenting on my stepmom's part. I wasn't sure that I even believed in mental illness at the time, and was a little nervous to be around people that admitted to having them. I was very naive and definitely being very ignorant. I was such a happy person and loved life. Through high school, I played 3 sports all 4 years on the varsity level. My senior year, my soccer team won the state championship. I laughed and giggled way too much and often and got in trouble for it by coaches and teachers. I had things that I loved doing and did them often. I had many friends that I hung out with a lot and was high on life 95% of the time and did not sweat the small stuff. Life was easy, and all in all, I absolutely loved it. Right before I came to college, my stepsister was hospitalized due to her mental illnesses for what I found out was the 6th time. It was not until then, and my love for psychology classes, that made me open up a little more to the thought that mental illness really does exist and people really are struggling with it. I was in my junior year of college, majoring in psychology, and loving life even more than ever when things started to change for me. I stopped having interests in things I truly cared about. I didn't want to do anything or see anybody. I quit going to class, receiving many failing grades. I lost many friends because nobody could handle my drastic up and down mood swings. One minute I would be having an okay time, and the next I was just bawling my eyes out. Therefore, I spent the majority of my time in bed, either sleeping or crying. I worried ulcers in my stomach, causing me to not eat. I didn't eat and lost 50 pounds in 2 months. People that I cared a great deal about accused me of being on hard drugs. It hurt. I went from talking to my family every day to rarely at all, which is very unlike me. Why was this happening to me? What had I done to deserve what was going on with me and my body? It truly sucked. I had no idea what it was. After 9 months, I decided to go to my family doctor. She diagnosed me with depression and prescribed me medication. I thought it was going to be fixed, and it was, for about 2 weeks, which is about how long most of the other medications that she prescribed me worked. I went through several medications over the course of a year. I always denied reaching out to a psychiatrist because that meant talking to a therapist. I did not feel that I had anything to discuss with them. But a year? I couldn't take it anymore. On August 27th, my new doctor diagnosed me with major depressive disorder and shortly after with bipolar disorder. Even after 9 months later, I am still suffering from the many symptoms of bipolar and major depressive disorder. I've come to class, held it together, and gotten through the days, but I'm struggling. I struggle every day. I've gone through being made fun of because sometimes I just cannot pull it together. My parents thought I was just misbehaving, but in all reality, I just could not help what I was dealing with. Some days are harder than others. Some days I'm lucky to just get out of bed. With that being said, I have learned so much over the past 2.5 years, and I honestly believe that my diagnosis has made me a better person. I will never judge the 13-year-old girl who is pregnant, the girl everyone calls the whore, or the one everyone calls crazy. Everyone has their story. I have mine. I don't do drugs, I'm not a convict, and I'm definitely not a murderer, but I do have several mental illnesses. I do not want people to know me as depressed or bipolar. I want people to know me as me, Caitlin, and not judge me based on my mental health issues. There's a lot more to me than that.